Hi, welcome back, and thank you so much for tuning in and joining us on our 2021 March book launch. My name is Jim Howard. I'm the publisher for Morgan James Publishing, and I've got another exciting author with an incredible message today, and I can't wait to introduce you to Dave Buehring. And Dave is the author of The Great Opportunity, Making Disciples of Jesus in Every Vocation. Dave, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Hey, Jim, thank you. It's really good to be with you.
Yeah, and it's exciting because even as we're conducting this interview, you've got some great news already about the book.
Yeah, we're listed in the top 10 must reads of 2021 by discipleship.org, which is an organization that brings together disciple making organizations like ourselves. So it was great to see that as we began the year.
Wow, and what an honor and what an audience and an opportunity to reach people with this book, because I think that people all levels of faith need to read this book. I know when we talked way back when we started the process of
Yeah.
publishing, this is a book that our company is built on a lot of the principles and the foundations of this book. So when we were reading it, going through, it was just a natural fit for us, and I know that it's going to impact a lot of people, no matter where they are in their journey. So, what brought you to the point of actually writing this book?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it was really an overflow of 4 decades of my life's journey and being set in kind of our current world. For me, I look at it through the lens of two things, Jim. One is society. I think if we can say what a year, huh? Between a global pandemic, economic challenges, undealt with racial issues, unparalleled political tension, all kinds of things. And in the midst of all that, I've observed over the last years, there's a lack of godly rudders, if I could put it that way.
Mm.
Decisions made without wisdom, leaders pursuing power more than actually serving people. And then, of course, just our civil discourse. We've just lost honoring one another. And so watching that in society and some of the leadership vacuums that are there was one of the reasons. The other piece for me, the parallel piece, I guess I could call it, is just what I've been observing in the church.
Mm.
And the last few years have exposed a lot of spiritual thinness. And pastors are recognizing that the foundations of their people and their churches are lacking. And it's a lack of disciple making, the deliberate growing of people. So we've seen that. And in the church as well, I don't know that there is a connecting that people have of their vocations with the great commission of Jesus to make disciples. So it's a combination of those things that kind of lit me to write it.
Wow. And I mean, who could have foreseen what 2020 brought? And this book was written before that, because we went through the process of publishing
Yes.
throughout that
Yeah.
year of 2020 as everything was
Yes.
unfolding with the pandemic. But even the
Indeed.
workplace, the way it's changed and the way it's morphing, and you still have that opportunity. And I think in today, with everything that we saw over the last year and a half to 2 years, as you mentioned, with racial, with pandemic, with new job situations, I mean, all of the uncertainty, people need someone to pour into them. People need that
Mm.
discipleship, and we need to pour into people. So I think this is just
Yes.
such an amazing opportunity for all of us, even with what's been brought and the new shaping of the landscape as we know it. So how
Yes.
is God tied to our vocations?
Yeah, this has been a fun one for me, Jim, to talk about with people. People haven't often thought about how every vocation is actually rooted in the character of God.
Mm.
And so when you begin to look at what you do, instead of it just being the pastor, the missionary, or the Christian school teacher having a calling, it's recognizing that every one of us have a calling. And so as I begin to observe God's character in scripture, I begin to connect that to how he displays himself. For example, let me give you several of these. He's a builder. Like we forget that he's the one that said, the ark out of gopher wood, this size, these many rooms. He is the builder of the Ark of the Covenant, the tabernacle. So if someone is a builder by profession, they got to recognize that God gets them, right? We could say that about the artist between sunsets and sunrises and the
Mm.
creation of animals. Anybody who's in that creative realm. I like to think of people like you and I who are involved in using words a lot in what we do. that Jesus is actually called the Word. So anybody involved in communication, the reality is they're tethered to God's character. Government's kind of an obvious one. King of Kings, Lord of Lords, the government will rest upon his shoulder. And government leaders that I walk with that love Jesus, so they're so grateful they can have a pipeline to get some wisdom. And a fun one for me, Jim, is when people say, well, what about technology? Like they want to stump me. And it's because I haven't thought all of these through, but we've got these broad categories. And I realized that technology usually has to do with speed. And there's no speed like God's processing speed. He
Mm.
knows right now where the smallest little ladybug is in Japan, the guy that just hit the 6-foot putt in San Diego, and the baby born in Jamaica, all right now. And so it's an eye opener and brings eternal value to everything that we do.
Wow. Wow. When you talk about it in those kind of terms, it really puts into perspective the size of God and the reach and where he resides. And I think that is just amazing for all of us to know how we plug in, even in our little essential ways. We're all
Yeah,
essential. And I think that is just amazing.
big time. Yes,
Uh,
yes, yes.
Outstanding. So how can and this is a topic that has come up for me over the last couple of weeks with friends that I know, with people who are in discipleship groups that I'm in a part of. And I'm excited to ask you about this. So how can applying what you're writing about, how can that make a difference in the world?
Yeah, one of the things that the book is full of is stories. The real life stories of, say, for example, the country music award-winning singer who learned how to serve.
Mm,
And now she's learned how to serve people, or the cardiologist that was more wired like a scientist and didn't really relate well with people, and now he cares and pauses with his patients. I think of the political leader who was climbing up the political ladder, and I taught him about the fear of the Lord, and he realized, I can't manipulate people any longer. Change the way he led. Or the business person who learned to honor their employees above themselves. And so the book is full of stories like that, Jim. And I think there's several aspects of this that will encourage and help people. First, as individuals, it'll rev up their engines related to their own calling.
mm,
And instead of viewing their job as a paycheck or a place to spend 40 to 50 hours, they'll realize there's an eternal purpose for it. That God is, for a young person, he might be using their job right now to do more of shaping of their character and adding to their tool belt. And for that 40, 50, 60 something in their job to realize the way they can help advance God's kingdom and better and bless the lives of other people. I also think it will help them connect the idea of their calling with the Great Commission. And if I do the math, Jim, the only way we can really impact society, it's through people, right? And if we can disciple people, not to wear their I love Jesus t-shirts to work, but to be able to relate incredibly to people, to be able to be excellent at what they do, to have high character. And if we can pour into people within our own vocations and help them grow in those things, it begins to change things. So when you develop, for example, more people with humble hearts, who have great attitudes, who relate well with others, who work hard using their gifts with the aim of actually bettering and blessing other people, how is that not a societal win? And I think the book will help people catch that.
wow. Wow. I love that. I love that. I often think that we're called to be image bearers of Christ, called
Mm,
to be
mm.
live our lives in such a way that people see him through our actions, and we don't have the opportunity to pick and choose where that is, and our vocation is certainly a big part of our lives. And it just makes sense that everything you're saying today works, just diving
Yes.
in and understanding that if we're an example of the one who set the example for us, other people will come to that knowledge as well.
Yeah,
And
no, that's
that's
yeah,
what I
that's well
love about
said,
the
Jim.
book, and I love about your message.
Thank you. Yeah. We often use the phrase reflecting and reproducing.
Mm.
So it's first we have to reflect his life through us that gains us credibility to reproduce it in others.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. So, Dave, if people are watching this right now, maybe they've
Yeah.
read the book, maybe they're waiting to get their hands on it. But how can they connect with you in the best way?
Yeah, well, probably the easiest way, Jim, is to go to our website, Lionshare, just like it sounds, lionshare.org, and they will see some of the resources and things that we have there, and they can get a hold of me through that website as well. And another thing that they may have interest in, if the message that they're hearing today and through the book resonates, is we have a podcast that's called Wisdom Unlocked: The Ways of God. And it's an opportunity for us to share in more detail these kinds of themes.
Mm. So all of you guys watching out there right now, this is a book I think that everyone needs. We all have a job, we all have a calling, we all have a purpose, and we've all been directed to do one thing, and that's go tell and make disciples. So for any one of us, this is an important message and an important book. And when we first met Dave, it was just such a natural connection to his message, to him as a human being, as a person, and as the one delivering this message to the world. So I encourage all of you, go check out his websites, go listen to his podcast, get his copy of this book. You can get it anywhere you buy books. It's available everywhere. And you can check out morganjamesbooklaunch.com for more information if you want to do that as well. But Dave Buehring, the great opportunity, making disciples of Jesus in every vocation. I think it's a must read. Discipleship.org says it's a must read as well. So congratulations, Dave. Thank you again for taking the time to talk with us.
Thank you for having me, Jim.
Oh, and thank you guys out there for watching. I hope you jump in and grab the copy of this book. It's going to have an impact on your life. And we'll see you on our next one.